welcome to Coaches on a Mission. I'm so happy this is happening today.
I am super excited to be here today with you, Dallas. I am stoked. Let's get started.
Okay, so full disclosure, you are here because I am a selfish person.
Oh, okay. This is a
I've
good
been in
start.
business, I've had a business for 21 years, and
Mm,
I still find phases or even seasons where I fall into this employee mindset,
mm,
employee thinking inside of my business.
yeah,
It's a theme we see happening all the time with Hive members because a lot of them, their businesses are really new.
right.
And this is one of many areas of expertise for you. So I'm just here to soak in your insight and help me deepen this mindset shift around what it means, the difference, right,
Right.
between running
Yeah.
your business like an employee and running your business like a boss.
A boss, a CEO. Yeah, for sure.
So could we start? I'd love to just hear some, when we're looking at the mindset, right,
Mhm.
around being an employee and how to break free from that. What are some of the things that coaches tell themselves that keeps us planted first in that unfulfilling job, right, rather than
Yeah.
going full time?
You know what? It's a conditioning
Mm,
from, I feel like just we are taught to, we go to school, we get an education, we graduate, we get a higher education, and we're doing all these things towards getting a job. And we need that stability and that structure and that predictability and knowing. And a lot of us have a really difficult time going from having a boss to being a boss because it's almost like we were never really given those tools. So now there's a whole other muscle that we have to grow, to build in order to make that full shift and to unlearn a lot of the things that we were taught and that conditioning that we have gone through our entire lives just believing. And
mhm.
that's what keeps us stuck a lot of time. We just don't know. We just don't realize it's an option. You don't have to have a boss. You can be one.
Right. You know what's interesting about that is I I find it's easy to, okay, I'll give a really concrete example.
Okay.
So here you are on my podcast. One
Mhm.
of the marketing paths that we take in my business is pitching me to other podcasts.
Right.
I
Okay.
could, someone on my team, or I could say, all right, I'm gonna pitch to 4 podcasts a week. And that's employee thinking because pitching doesn't, if I hit the number 4, I've done the job, even if I don't get on any shows,
Right.
right? So, all right, I'm working now. So if I've worked a full day, I've done
Right.
the job,
You've done the things.
right?
Yes.
Instead
Yeah.
of actually moving the business forward and looking at efficiencies and changing the objective. So what I got from what you shared was we're taught to value time spent more than actions taken when it comes to work.
Yeah.
We're taught to like value the structure given to us instead of
Structure.
permission to create our own.
Yes. Yes. And
Hmm.
then because, and we're taught to also value this structure that was laid out for us. It's almost
Right.
like we didn't do anything. So now starting our own businesses, becoming our own coaches, everything's up to us,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
we have to from scratch all the way through to becoming a CEO, to growing your team. We have to come up and create our own tools.
Yeah.
And for many of us, it's like, whoa, what do
Yes.
you mean?
Almost too many options. It's too much
Exactly.
freedom, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm so curious, and I don't know what your answer is going to be to this, CJ, but can you think of an like a light bulb moment you had as a business owner where you realized your own conditioning and you realized that you had freedom to create structure, or is that something you never had to
Oh my goodness.
learn?
You
Like,
know, it's
story.
the answer, the example I'm going to give you is such a simple one too. I remember once I was free of my corporate job, right?
Yeah.
I had made the decision, I'd gone back to school, I got certified, and all right, I'm starting this business. I was setting my alarm clock to get up for a certain time because I knew I was so used to, being up for 6 a.m. to do the things, to be able to leave home by 7:30. And then one day I'm like, wait a minute, I don't have to be anywhere for a certain time. Like no one's waiting for me. Of course, I still had to hold myself accountable,
Yeah.
but that alarm clock thing,
Right.
it was so deeply ingrained that it was like I had to. I was expecting myself to
Mhm.
have to get up at this time to go through a certain amount of steps to
Yep.
be able to be somewhere. I'm expected to be somewhere and I have to fulfill this role and to do these things. So that was my aha moment. That one morning I reached for my alarm clock and I'm like,
Wait a second.
what am I doing?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that it's easy to attach our worth to our own productivity or to the results, right?
Oh, for sure.
And if you're newer in business and you're in the building phase, so there aren't a lot of concrete results, then of
Mm-hmm.
course the time that we spend and the time we wake up in the morning and how closely we follow that working model
Mm,
that is tied to our worth. And what you're
right.
saying is it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. And I love that you pointed out the results part because we attach a lot of our worth to the results and not to the actual process,
Yeah.
right? And what you learn about yourself in the process and how you manage overcoming, oh my gosh, the imposter syndrome and the self-doubt and celebrating those small wins. We're so focused on I have to get this result. And then when we don't get that result, we feel like a failure.
Hmm.
When really I don't look at failure as failure, it's a lesson. And
Totally.
as business owners, as entrepreneurs, there's so many lessons to be learned. So once we can stop fully attaching our worth, of course we want the results and we want to
Yeah.
do the things and we want to make the money.
Yeah.
But once we can really understand that part of shifting our mindset, and it's really about going through that journey, and that sometimes the results that you had hoped for aren't necessarily the best results, right? For your business or when you set out for something. So taking away attaching our full worth to the results. And if I don't get this, I have failed and being so hard on
Yeah.
ourselves. Ooh, it's tough.
Yeah.
Hard out here,
You,
man.
have you ever had that experience of reaching a result you thought you wanted and getting there and realizing it wasn't what you wanted?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
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 Can
And
you tell
then
me a
it's
story?
and it's because you and it's the thing is with,
Mm.
and especially in coaching, and it's you because you're serving others too and you want the best for others and you
Yeah.
really see something in someone and is you're just waiting for them to catch up. Like I see
True.
it in you, like let's do this, right?
Yeah.
But then you design certain programs or processes
Mhm.
for your clients hoping for certain results. But I find for myself when I'm working with each and every client, that as much as I have a system or I have a process, it has to be very customizable too. It's because it's very individual at the end
Completely.
of the day to each person, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
we can't put everybody in a box. And again, that goes back to that mindset, an employee mindset, because I remember being in the corporate days and I felt like I was being placed in this box.
Yeah.
Check, you have this task list. These are the things we do. These are the results that we expect. These are the numbers that we must have. And let's have a meeting and let's go over this and quarterly that. And really, it really is about being that individual and highlighting and celebrating the individual.
Yeah. Okay. So I am imagining our listeners at the edge of their seats, or now they've stopped doing dishes for a moment as they're listening.
Good.
We got their attention. So, what tangible steps can I begin to make, or maybe it's questions I even ask myself because I see, all right, I'm operating like an employee and I want to start to shed this employee mindset. How do
Mhm.
I begin that process?
The first thing we have to we think about like growth mindset and fixed mindset. So
Okay.
employee mindset essentially fixed mindset, and you want to be able to grow, you want to be able to adapt, and it's a lot of it is really showing ourselves some grace
Hmm.
and being able to accept that this is a journey. It's not going to happen. I remember when I first started, of course, I'm going to just use myself as an example. When I first started and that imposter syndrome kicked in, and I was like, why would anybody want to hire me?
Right.
As a coach? Like, there's so many coaches out there. Why would anybody want to hire me? And again, I was getting back into being in that setting where I was in a team. There were many of us who were doing different things and had different roles. And I was all on me. And I was like, but why would people want to hire me? And I remember my coach saying, because there's no other you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's about remembering, it doesn't matter. There's 50 quadrillion, million, gajillion coaches out there. There's only one you.
Yeah.
And what makes you unique? What makes somebody want to work with you? I have something to offer that Dallas doesn't. And the same way that Dallas, there are things that you would do that I wouldn't do. And it will just, there'll be that fit. So it's really, the first thing is about embracing your individuality, especially in this world where things can seem very oversaturated.
Yes.
Super duper oversaturated. We have to, and it's also about being open. We are hardwired.
Mm-hmm.
Our brains are hardwired to resist change. We're just set up to resist, like fight or flight, right?
We could die. If something changes, we could die. Our body.
What are you even talking about right now? Why did I even mention that word? So we have to be able to call ourselves on it too, because there's a lot of change and growth that has to happen, right? Yeah. So when we realize there's a resistance, is it a resistance? Is it just our immediate reaction, or is it like a resistance to the change or that fear that would come into it? A lot of times fear is just one giant lie.
A lot of times?
A lot of times, like we're completely lying to ourselves, right? So I think the shift really has to happen by just almost putting a spotlight on yourself. Like you're picturing yourself in a room, but it's your show now. This is your business. You have made the decision to serve others as a coach. And what attracts people to coaches, and you will get this, is there is always something about that person that will draw them in. So if you are values driven and you want people to know certain things about you and understand certain things about you. And when somebody, I always like to say to my clients, imagine somebody's going to give you a 5-star review on Google. What are the things that they're saying about you? And those are the things you want people to know. And those are your values. And that's where it all starts. I feel like what means the most to you and makes you stand out.
Oh, this is so good. Okay, so here's what I heard.
Okay.
Taking copious notes. So the employee mindset is a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. It's often rooted in habits we've been indoctrinated with since birth.
Basically.
Right? And then there's this imposter syndrome piece or self-doubt piece, whatever word you want to plug in there for that sabotage that can just come when we're new at starting a business. There's nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just count on it, right? It happens.
It's there, guaranteed.
Right. And then, so we're conditioned to have this employee mindset, and we're built to resist change. So the first step I hear you saying from shifting that mindset is, number one, embrace my own individuality and just like give myself permission to be me, understanding that I am the right coach for someone out there.
Exactly.
And then the other thing that really stuck out was permission to change. So using this mindset shift from employee to the CEO mindset, using that as a personal development practice to build my confidence and to put myself out there in these other risky things we have to do in our businesses. We can take the risk of relating to our business differently as a way to practice those similar skills.
Yes.
Oh, that's really helpful.
Yeah, for sure. That's exactly it.
Okay.
Just be able to stand out.
So how can someone recognize then that they're ready to break free of this employee mindset?
it's when we really start to challenge our own thinking.
The alarm clock,
And
6 a.m. alarm
it's,
clock, and you say,
it's
what
like,
the hell?
yeah, it's just like,
Got it.
wait a
Yeah.
minute. But then going one step further, like by challenging it and questioning it and actually doing the thing, challenge yourself to say, I'm going to commit to this thing. Coaches, we're all about accountability.
Mhm.
I'm going to commit to this plan or this action, and really seeing it through. And what I learned very early on is I couldn't do it on my own. I hired a coach very early on in my
Yeah.
business,
Smart.
right? So,
Smart person.
right? So we it can be so isolating too,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? Just entrepreneurship on a whole, being new to it, going from the setting of being able to, I don't know what kind of setting most people are in, nowadays, but being able to stand up and you see 30 or 40 other people to now
Right.
maybe you're working from home.
You're feeling very isolated,
You're
right?
feeling very isolated. You have to find your people.
Mhm.
One of the first things I think is there are always going to be people who are looking for their people. So making the right kinds of connections to have people to hold you accountable, to help to remain objective. Most hopefully it's another coach or
Yeah.
just somebody else who's very new to their business as well. But
Mhm.
just if you'll know you're ready for the change when you start to do the little things. I call it the 0 to 100 mentality.
Oh, tell me more
So
about that. Yeah.
so we're at 0 and our minds are at 100,
Yeah.
right? I got to do this, I got to do that, I have to have this amount of following, I have to this many programs, I have to charge this, and I have to, and my website and all this other stuff. And it's like, hang on a second, what about steps 1 to 99? You're at 0, come back to step 1.
Mhm.
And your step 1 could be something as simple as just making the decision, making that phone call, sending that email, visiting that coach's website to find out more about them, and doing that kind of research. And then step 2 could be maybe finding your people or reaching out for other people or seeing what other people in your industry are doing and how they stand out.
Mhm.
Right. So it's not like once we graduate, once we're certified, like, boom, I'm a coach, I'm awesome, I'm ready to go. It's like, you got to take the time to find yourself. So you'll know you're ready when you start to do the little things.
Yep.
The little things add up.
I love that you said that because I feel like the online space that we both occupy and our listeners occupy, right,
Right?
does not normalize steps 1 through 99. I don't think
Not at
enough
all.
people talk about that. And we glorify the story of the overnight success,
Oh my
which is
gosh.
the exception rather than the rule,
Right.
right?
Right. Absolutely glorified. I did this thing, pring, and it's a comparisonitis will kick in, right? And
Mhm.
I always see these people, I celebrate them, of course, by
Yes.
all means, celebrate your wins. But did it really happen overnight though?
And I see your Stripe account screenshot, but how much money did you spend on ads? What's your
Right.
profit
You're celebrating
margin?
the 6 figures, which is great, but how much
Yes.
did you have to invest to get
Yeah.
there?
Like
And
show
I
us the
think
whole
that's
picture.
yeah, so important
Mhm.
to be able to share that too, or
Mhm.
be the person that to just challenge that status quo and be like, listen, I'm struggling right now, but oh, I struggled. I'll share that all the time. I say
Yeah.
in the beginning, it was hard.
Yeah.
And I always tell people how hard it was in the very, very beginning, because I think it's important to be able to remind people of that.
Well, CJ, I just said it earlier. I've been in business for a really long time. Yesterday was really freaking hard. Okay, and today,
Right.
it's feeling better. We're
I
talking,
know.
having a lot of fun. But we all have seasons where it's hard. And one thing we strive to do inside of the hive is we call it normalizing the roller coaster,
Mhm.
right? Really getting the message across of what it actually looks and feels like to run a business, because it's not all. Sometimes, and maybe more often than anyone cares to admit, being an employee is easier. Remember those
That's
days?
what, remember those days, and you felt like I just get up, I show up, I do the things, I clock
Everything,
out,
back
see you
out,
tomorrow.
like
And
happy hour on Friday afternoons with my favorite coworkers. Right.
yeah.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
yet, so here's the big takeaway I have from our conversation. Thank you so much. If what we're choosing is to run our own businesses, the thing that worked as an employee is the thing we have to shed in order to be successful but also fulfilled in our own business. And that's this employee way of thinking.
The employee way of thinking. And also, we also have to take a moment and look at the type of employee we were,
Oh, okay.
right? Because it's being your own boss, your leadership skills. There are some like transferable skills
Uh-huh.
from that setting,
Yeah.
but if you get hints about the type of boss you are going to be by the type of employee I feel that you were. So if you're somebody who managed their time really well and you got along really well with others and you can take that initiative, you take that into, you shed the other stuff, the stuff that's not useful at all, but you kind of get clues to the type of boss that you would CEO that you would be just from the type of employee or mindset that you had in that setting. If you can make the best of a situation and you know how
Mm-hmm.
to diffuse or how to have difficult conversations, and
Mm-hmm.
you took up all the different types of training or anything that was offered, or you would, what was the word? Oh, job shadow, no, with other departments, and you were
Mm-hmm.
always just very curious and very open. I feel like when I think about some of the people and the conversations and I've had even with clients who are starting their business, and then there's certain things that they say that they do right now that they realize they would find useful, because some of us are really meant to be bosses. I
Yeah.
feel like
Yeah.
some of us are meant
Yeah.
to be entrepreneurs, and it's not for everyone.
Yes.
I've seen the people return to the 9 to 5 setting, but
Happily, like for the
happily,
record, happily. Yes.
happily. I've
Yeah.
had clients just go back to this is not for me.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer this setting. So you got to ask yourself that question too. Are you a want-trepreneur or a mentrepreneur?
Oh,
And
right.
seeing how you answer different questions, like
Yeah.
how badly do I want this? You
Mm-hmm.
know, as a mentrepreneur, as a wantrepreneur, I'm like, should I be doing this? Maybe I can,
Yeah.
maybe I should just stick it out here and stay stuck.
Yeah.
Right. Just that,
Right.
that muscle again. Building it is great, but there are clues there, I think, too, to the
Yeah.
type of boss you would be.
Let's play a game. I just got an idea.
Ooh, okay.
You talked about these transferable skills.
Yes.
So I'd love to, and I'll play along. We'll both do it.
Okay.
So can you think of one mindset or quality that served you really well as an employee that was completely transferable as a boss? And then one that was not.
One that served me really well as an employee was, I would have to say my leadership skills.
Okay.
And I was fortunate enough when I was still in the corporate setting, they call this people managers, team leaders, or whatever the term is, but I got to coach my employees, right?
Oh,
So it was awesome. It was the best
yeah,
part of my job.
totally.
I was like, I meant to do this on my own. Like, this is totally my thing. So that was definitely the leadership and being able, reliable and
Mhm.
approachable and relatable.
Yeah.
What did not serve me? Ooh, I'm trying to think now of something. I know. I can think of, I tend to be, for lack of a better term, laid back almost, right?
Okay.
Which, for example, in a meeting, when everybody is, bringing up their points, I was more of an observer. I would take the
Mhm.
notes and be able to go back and apply things. If anybody had any, let's say anybody have any questions, I generally didn't have questions in the meetings.
Yeah.
And I find now as a boss, that works well as a coach, because a coach really needs to be able to observe.
Right.
But there are times, and I definitely have to call myself on this a lot, where I would procrastinate on
Mhm.
things.
Right.
I would put things off and be like, oh, I just need to observe this a little bit more. Or I'll be like in a setting where I can speak up on something and I
Right.
don't necessarily do it right then and there.
Yeah.
So I check myself now with that. I'm like, no, but I have to actively check myself. You have something to say,
Yeah.
say it. You have a decision you need to make right now, and you know what you want to do, make the decision.
That's a really good example.
Yeah.
So if I'm a completely unemployable person, so we have to just put that out there. I mean, the only office job I ever had, on the third day, I came to work early and rearranged the furniture because I just thought it could look better a different way. And that's not a vibe. That's not like a make new friends at work kind of vibe.
Right. Like, who's this new girl? Like, what's she doing?
Totally. But I would say for me, I, as an employee and as a boss, this characteristic does serve me, as I recover really quickly.
Okay.
Right? So if a mistake happens, whether I make it or someone on the team, like, we deal with it and I'm able to move on
Mm-hmm.
quickly, which I think as a leader is really helpful because my team feels safe to make mistakes.
Right.
Um, and then something that did not help, well, the moving of the furniture. But what is that? How does that translate as a boss? I can make fast executive decisions and forget that other people need to be included,
Okay.
right? Like moving the
Okay.
damn furniture around. So that's something I have to be really careful about because
Right.
I have a team, right? And they're in the day to day even more than I am. So I need to loop them in, or I'll have a meeting with one person on my team and we'll come to a decision and I will forget to loop other members in,
Right.
which requires a lot more work now that we all work virtually,
Okay. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
More effort. So yeah, those are my answers.
Yeah.
So
And you know what's interesting?
yeah,
It was, even with the ones we find didn't really transfer well, there
yeah,
was still something in it that we each pulled out of, like, well, you know what, like you said, you were able to make fast decisions, which is great. And then for me, I said, like, I tend to observe a lot. And I'm like, but as a coach, you kind of need to, but so we still found ways to spin it and apply it to
it's the coach
what
in
are their
us,
bad
right?
qualities?
Totally.
Totally the coach in us.
Yeah. So if there's someone listening who just needs, I guess I'm going to ask it in a different way.
Okay.
If you had some words of wisdom to offer a listener who's really realizing through this conversation, okay, there is room for me to up my game and shed this old way of thinking and this old way of relating to myself in my business, what would be your encouragement for them today as we wrap up?
The one thing that comes to mind is something that my coach had said to me very, very early on in my early difficult days, the roller coaster ride, when I first got on the
Yeah.
ride, is she had said, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
Yeah. Mm.
So we have to remember, you started for a reason, and it's not, and it's good to understand and remember your why. This is why I do this. But when something isn't happening, you have to ask yourself, why not? Why is this not moving forward? Where is the block coming from? A lot of times we are getting in our own way. So how do I get out of my way? What do I need to do today to get out of my way? Or who do I need to contact? What book do I need to read? What podcast do I need to listen to? But we have to recognize when we're getting in our own way. And remember that you started because you are an individual and you have something to offer. And if you didn't have something to offer, you wouldn't have started at all.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I feel like I could chat with you all day.
Thanks. This was great. Thanks for having me. This was so much fun.
Yeah. So everyone listening, I've learned today, okay, I still have some of those employee mindset habits and I haven't had a job in a long time. So for everyone listening, I think my invitation, CJ, if you agree, would be take CJ's advice, remember your own individuality and you're here for a reason. And also, is there one small employee mindset habit that you'd be willing to shed?
Yes.
Yeah. Mine is ending the workday at the end of the workday, right? 5 o'clock. Like, I could work mornings and I could work nights if I want to. So I'm going to take that on. Thank you, CJ, for being here.
Thank you for having me. Have a sparkling day.
Thank you.